All right, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Military Mondays. I'm your host, Matt Dillingham, and this, as you know, some of you may not know, is my way of helping out my fellow veterans. I served in the Marine Corps myself to help promote us and just bring awareness to veterans in the community, businesses to help support one another and get the word out. So today, I have with me Jordan Isaac of Cornucopia Business Consulting. We're having a family conversation about business, his life experiences, and things he learned from the military and the business now. And I'm asking questions, sir. So welcome to the show. I appreciate it, man. Thanks for being on.
I appreciate you having me. This is a great platform, and I appreciate what you're doing for military veterans and helping out the entire business community. So thank you.
Hey, I'm doing my part. That's all I can say. Now, here's the question I got to ask you. What branch of the military did you serve in?
I was in the Coast Guard.
Boo!
So
I'm just kidding.
that's all
Nobody
right. You
cares
know
about
what?
the Coast Guard, but it's kind of important because if something happens out at sea, or at least it's on the movie Top Gun, the first one, the Coast Guard comes out and gets you. So you can make fun of, but it's is it okay? Let me ask this: with the Coast Guard, is it easy, or can you get your butt kicked in it? Because it's a needed part of the military that no one ever talks
So A, you can get your butt kicked in it.
about.
B, it is not easy at all. C, I've probably deployed in more places being in the Coast Guard than most people, unless they actually get deployed at war.
Hmm.
Um, do. Nobody gets to go anywhere if you're not actually, if your unit doesn't get deployed somewhere. You could be training for like 5 years and
Yeah.
never actually do anything. The
Yep.
Coast Guard from day one, you're out there doing a real job in real places. I've been to I've been to Russia. I was in Bahrain and Kuwait
Wow.
back in, the 90s.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
I've been to like every island in the Caribbean, and not for fun. This is like for work, because one of the back in the 90s, when I was in up until 2003, but back then, drugs was a big thing, right? It's all about the drug trade, and all those
Mm.
drugs are being run in between, islands in the Caribbean, trying to get to, Miami and the east coast of the United States. So we patrolled all those waters. It's not like, people think about the Coast Guard and they think about small boat stations who are doing like boating while intoxicated, boating safety, and the cops of like the waterways, like
Right. What are you
the
doing? Slow
waterways.
down. It's like it's not like that at all. You're needed
Exactly. Like
everywhere.
there's another part of the Coast Guard, the deep water Coast Guard, where we're on ships that are like, 300, 400 feet long. We're out doing 3, 4 month deployments. And, we're looking for people running drugs into the United States. You have, back in the 90s, there was the migrants, that were coming in. We had to stop the migrants also. Um, you're on the West Coast, and like the waters of the West Coast is going forever. There's not even islands out there so that you can stop. And like you're just patrolling that whole area. You go up north and you look at, fisheries operations off of the Aleutian chains of Alaska, right
Oh
by,
no.
really, literally only about 3 miles from Russia at certain parts of it. So you're regulating the U.S. fishing industry. So yeah, there's a lot of deep water Coast Guard out there that nobody knows about.
Jeez, that's a lot. I didn't think about that. I didn't know that. I'll be honest. Like I didn't know because it's not talked about. You don't hear about it.
Yeah,
Everyone else gets the glory and the praise, but for you, it's like Coast Guard's like, the fuck is that? It's like you don't understand. You've
yeah.
seen some stuff.
So
Let me, did you what was there a time out in the oceans? The oceans fascinate me because we know like almost nothing about them. I think we know more about space than our own oceans. Did you ever, this is a random question, did you ever see anything like that you're like, what the fuck is that in the ocean? And you're like, nope, I need to retire as soon as I can. Not do this anymore, you know?
not like that. I mean, it's more like the majestic beauty of the ocean. Like
Okay.
there's been times, we're out to sea. We've been out for weeks on end,
Oh,
and you're like in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, and it's pitch black.
can't see
Um,
shit.
yeah, sometimes like there's not even a moon out, but you got stars, and then you just realize that like the vastness of it, and you're like, wow, it's kind of like, the seven wonders of the world, like the
Mhm.
ocean should be like one of them, where it's like, because this is fastness and like the depth of it, like it's it just goes forever. Not forever, but I mean, it's you just think about there, like 3 o'clock in the morning when you're standing watch on the bridge of a ship, and there's nobody's awake because the whole ship's asleep. It's you and like three guys,
Taking
or
it.
gals, that then you just get to just look at just the depth of nature. Like that's just it's amazing. So nothing that made me go like, oh my God, I'm leaving. It's more of like, oh my God, like just the creation of it. Like we are so small in this world where
Yeah.
you think the world revolves around you, and then you like look out at the ocean and be like, this thing can destroy you, kill you, suck you in, and nobody will
So
find
so easily,
you.
despite
Yeah.
despite the massive of a ship, that water can be like, don't test me, because I
Yep.
will scare the shit out of you, and you will regret it. Like there's a oh, what was I watching? It was a YouTube video, and you can let me know it's true. I hope in your experience, but like picture when ships come in and like there's holes punctured, missing chunks. Like what the hell did that? And it was the water. I forget what it's called, but it's real waves that come up and they're like super dangerous. You never want to be in this situation, but they're just like it's armor piercing water. I'm like, yep, I'm gonna stay on land. That's my preference because you you
I've
gotta
not,
acknowledge the awesomeness.
I've never experienced that, but
Right,
and I mean, of course, we're on military vessels, so they're made to withstand whatever is out there.
right,
Like the Coast Guard's job, is to go out and save people who do dumb stuff and they can't save themselves.
right.
It's like that unwritten motto. We have to go out, we don't have to come back, like in the Coast Guard. So legitimately, like that's the mindset. We got to go out because we got to save these knuckleheads. We don't always have to come back, and people die all the time saving people who do dumb stuff, especially people got
Jeez.
too much money and not enough brains that go out and, they get boats and they think they can just, survive anything. They get stuck in storms and like it's a hurricane. Oh, I'm just going to
Oh,
stay here. I want to be in the middle of a hurricane, you know,
really?
or they just don't know what they're doing, and they're just operating the boat the wrong way and it capsizes. Just a lot can go on, like Mother Nature is ruthless.
She
But
is. I
but I
don't think
mean,
some people get that. It's like you understand, like you have to respect that and be like, cool, because it's water's its own beast. We need it, but like it will take us out, no questions asked. Like
yeah.
nothing.
And out in the Bering Sea, of like the Bering Sea of Alaska, like the winters you don't even need a hurricane. The winters, a period, are just brutal.
Re-
And like you'll get 20, 30-foot seas coming off, crashing onto the ship. And a smaller boat can easily be lost in situations like that if you don't know what you're doing. And we
Jeez.
have commercial fishermen that have to go out there and fish because that's their livelihood.
Yeah.
Um, but they make bad decisions sometimes, and we got to go save them.
What's in your time doing it? What was like the dumbest thing you saw someone do? We were like, were you on drugs today and decided to make this decision and do this?
I saw a sailboat, probably 30-foot sailboat, really nice boat. Bad weather. The guy didn't know what he was doing. Got the boat broadside to a wave, and literally it toppled it over. And then we're going to save the guy, and he doesn't want to let his boat go. He's like, "Oh my God, my boat! I paid so much for it, but the boat's going down." And he's trying to bail it out with like a bucket of water. It's like, sorry, we're gonna take you off this boat because we're not gonna let you die, but the boat's lost.
Yeah, you hopefully had insurance. You can get another boat in due time, but you can't get another you.
Yeah.
Jeez. Wow. I will never look at the Coast Guard the same ever again.
Oh, I'm glad I could open your eyes to
Oh my
like
eyes. It's like,
many
wow,
missions
because
that
it's
we
true.
do.
Yeah, because it's true. Because like, what movie? What was the movie that Ashton Kutcher was starring in? It's the Coast Guard, and he's in it, and Kevin Costner. I can't think of the name. I've seen it. It's pretty. I think I've seen it. I've seen parts. It looks good, but like you're literally going into. It's like how we're sent to people to the war. You're sent to like a shitty situation with a storm and the sea to save someone because either they did something stupid or something happened they didn't expect it. Like you're going into the storm literally and being like,
Yeah, like
"What gotta
people go
do?"
out, especially during hurricane season. They don't look at the weather. They know, or hurricanes sometimes just come out of nowhere. I mean, you could track hurricanes; they don't really come out of nowhere.
Right.
But But yeah, they're not paying attention to the weather. They're not looking at, their environment, and they just get caught, and we got to go out there and save them.
And that's the thing. Like you're in the ocean, those waves aren't a joke. I can't only imagine. I'm sure you probably seen some waves, and you're like, why did I sign for this? Am I getting paid enough for this right now?
You know what? Doing fisheries operations in the Bering Sea in December, where you're freezing and there's icicles growing out your nose, that's probably the
Oh,
only time I sat there like, why am I doing this? So
I volunteered for this. What?
yeah.
Ooh, I said, yeah, that's rough. But anyway, so you did that. And then from there, did you go right into business or was it a bit of a journey from there, like got into business consulting?
When I got out, I got recruited by big box retail to run stores. Right, they have programs. A lot of them do it where they recruit military officers who have the leadership and management training,
Okay.
and they just need to learn business. Right, so they'll put you through a program and they'll teach you retail operations and retail business and learning, P&Ls and all that wonderful financial stuff, and then they have you run retail stores. So I ran retail stores, big box retail for major companies, Fortune 100 companies, um, for 15 years, and then got into franchise consulting for some franchises, where I really learned how to work with small businesses who, as franchises, you might have the backing of that franchise company, but the franchisee is a small business, right? He has that one or two stores, or some of them have six or seven, but he's still a small business, right? Because anybody doing more than, what is it, $15 million, $75 million is still a small business. I think it's
Hmm.
15 million. So a lot of these guys aren't doing that, right? Even if you have two stores. So, you own a franchise and you're still a small business and you're still responsible for running that business. And you have some of the support and assets from your franchisor, but really it's your job to run the business efficiently, hire the right people, make the right decisions on cost of goods and on, your finances, and working with vendors, and making the right deals when you're buying your goods, from anybody other than your franchisor. How do you pay your people, right? So the
Right.
franchisor can tell you how to pay your people. You gotta retain people, so you gotta pay them the right wage. But if you overpay them, then that's when you start losing money. If you underpay them, you're gonna lose them, and that's even worse, because the constant revolving door of trying to hire people will
Yeah.
destroy um, so it's that happy medium, right? It's that balance of, really teaching these small business owners on making the right decisions, on where to spend money, where not to spend money, what product to buy, how much to sell it for, making sure that they're getting that return on investment without, you know, charging so much that your customer's not going to buy it. Like,
Right.
where's that spot? Um, and then really teaching people about ROI, right? Teaching people about gross profit. A lot of people they talk about, hey, I'm doing this much in sales,
Hmm.
right? And they think, oh my God, I've made it. Like, I just need to hit $500,000 in sales, or I need to hit like that $1 million in sales mark. Everybody thinks about like, oh my God, I got to hit $1 million.
Yeah.
Uh, but then they're not looking at how much money they're actually spending, because what is your actual percentage on that $1 million of sales? What do you actually put in your pocket, right? You think
Yeah.
about net profit and gross profit, right? You really want that net profit, because that is what goes into your pocket, right? You take your cost of goods, you take your sales, and then they're like, okay, I'm great. But no, like, how about your rent? How about your workers' comp insurance, workers' comp
Yeah.
liability insurance? You know,
Payroll.
all that payroll is the highest thing, besides cost of goods, that companies usually have to deal with. And then look at what's left, right? Because that's what you put in the bank, right? And that's actually like the difference between, do you own a business, or did you just buy yourself a job, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Nah, you're right on that. Is and because I thought about myself being, business for myself and what happens. Like you take because the vast majority of us start off as employees. So we take that with us into the business world and we think, I got to do everything and work harder. And it's like, no, you start where you're at, but you need to, like, I didn't hire you first off to be like, here's how you scale and delegate and to not buy another job basically that you're doing with your own money. And you're also right on like, gross profit, net profit. But like you said, if you want to hit $1 million in sales, you're also like spending like 900,000 or you're breaking even. Like, are you really making any money? You're just there. You're basically at
Yep.
zero.
And it's
Yeah.
like it's one of like the first things I ask a company when we're talking. It's like, what is your, don't tell me how much money you actually made in profit. Tell me what is the percentage of your profit, right? Because you can hit $1 million of sales, like you said. If it cost you $900,000 to do it, then you have a 10% profit.
Mm,
Whereas opposed to, hey, if you made $800,000 in sales, but had a 20% profit, you'd actually put more money in your pocket, right?
right.
So it's like that when they look at it that way, they're like, yeah, your $100,000 is great, but you made a 10%, profit margin. Whereas if you weren't doing certain things to get you that last $200,000 in sales that cost you maybe, $300,000 to do, because that's what you needed to hit that $1 million mark, and you were just did $800,000 in sales, but you put a 20% profit in your pocket, you'd be making $160,000 and not $100,000.
Right.
Like, I'd rather have the $160,000 in my pocket and be able to say I made $1 million in sales, but only took home 100,000.
Right. You're just
So
saying,
like those are some of the things that, as a business consultant, that you try to teach, small, especially small business owners, right? Because they're just looking at that top line number and not, everything else that goes along with it. And a lot of them don't even track that, right? you know it's like they don't even know why or how they made, that million, or why they're only making a 10% profit, because they're not tracking all the key metrics that they should be. Like, some of them are just, they make the money by luck, not by luck, but it really is just luck, because it's not like they didn't have a goal and they didn't say, this is how much, this is what I'm gonna make, and then work backwards from there. They just do it, and how much they make is what they make,
yeah,
as opposed to having a goal that says, I'm gonna make $1 million in sales, this is how I'm gonna do it. And they put a plan in place to do that, so that they could also track, hey, this is also my expenses, so that I want, that 20%, 25%, net profit, and then actually have a plan to work that way. A lot of them they're great at what they do, right? So, like I said, they were a worker. They might have been the greatest plumber ever. They might have been the greatest electrician ever. They might have been the greatest baker ever. They might have been the greatest chef ever. It's like, oh my God, forget working for the man. I'm going to work for myself. But then that's what they're doing. They're working, and they're every day they're just going to a 9 to 5. And yes, they get to keep whatever they made, but they're not really running a business. They brought themselves a job. I kind of say it like this. I'm like, you're trading your time for money, right? And everybody, no matter what you're doing, you're going to trade time for money. What you want to do, as if you bought yourself a job, then you're trading your time for your money on a one-to-one basis.
right.
So you work this many hours, you get this much money. What you need to do is say, okay, as a business owner, you want to trade your time for multiples of that money. So if, as a chef, right, you cooking, and you do an hour's worth of cooking, and you do $300 worth of product, right? So
Yep.
now you're getting $300 for that hour, right? That's a job. What you want to be able to do is say, for that hour, I'm teaching 5 or 6 people how to cook, and then they need to be doing it in 5 different places. So in that 1 hour, I'm bringing in $1,500. And
Correct.
then, of course, you got to pay the cooks. Maybe you're paying them 700, right? But then you're still bringing 800 back. So
Yep.
now that 1 hour, the same hour that you did when you were the top chef, you got $300. Now you're getting $700. Now you're running a business.
Yes, it's that thing called leverage, scale, and not and duplication. And listen to books, a lot of things. Some people have problems with that because they're afraid to let go of control. They're afraid of, okay, I I'm afraid it won't be done the way I do is great. And that's true because no one can do what you do like you.
But
That's
yes,
a
they
fact of
can.
life.
But this is what we teach. Yes, they can. If you are able to put in the correct processes, right? As process with a plan, with a team that is bought into your plan and your process. So
Right.
if you find the right people and you have the right process and you have the correct follow-up, then they can absolutely do it the exact same way you do it. That's something we learned in the military, right? In the military, you have people everywhere who are all doing this almost the same job that
Yep.
sometimes you work together, sometimes you don't. And when you
Yep.
come together, we all got to be on the same sheet of music, right? Because our lives depend on it.
Yeah,
So, and
yeah.
there's no time to get the unit together. And then, yes, there's training. Yes, there's teaching, but everybody's training the same way everywhere. So when we have to work together, it works seamless and we all go back to our business. And the next time
Yep.
we come back, you do it again. So you could do the same thing in business. It's SOPs that you create, right? You create your own standard operating procedure, your process within your company, and then you get people who are bought into your process, and then you teach them, and then you send them out to do your process. So yes, if you somebody can do it the exact same way that you would do it. And until you get that, you will never trust your people to let go. It's all about trust. They don't trust their people to do it the way they would do it because they don't have the procedures and the processes in place to teach them and manage them.
Yep.
And that's why they need a consultant to teach them how to do that.
Hire Jordan Isaac. Do it now. Do it now,
There you
damn it.
go. Do it now.
He's serving the Coast Guard. He icicles those free his ass off for you. He's doing it again for you. Hire him now. Shit. That's a good point. Standard opera, like, yeah, it's a system because like you're right on that because if people don't, it's in our face every day, and we're not taught to look at, because you look at any franchise like restaurants like McDonald's, Burger King, fast food joints, right? It's all a system. They're all doing the same thing. That's why when you go there, no matter who's working, you when you order something, provided no mistakes are made and whatnot, you're getting the same product basically. Like I want a
Yeah.
cheeseburger. Boom. Someone's doing this, someone's doing that, the system in place, and they're now global. Because if there's a system in place, it tells you this goes off, put it here, and you have to think about it. You know what I mean? And same way can be your business. You're right on that.
And to your point, for companies that want to scale, a big part of that is automation, right? And it doesn't have to be like assembly line Ford automation. It could be simple automation, but you need to put in automation so that when you do teach it to other people, it's automated. So they just need to follow the steps, right? And whatever it is that you're doing, like you talk about McDonald's, right? To make fries, right? There's a something automated that drops the round amount of fries in the basket.
Yeah.
You put in the grease, the alarm goes off, you hit the button, you take them out. Like
Yep.
that person doesn't need to know really how to make fries. They just need to know this drops it in,
Right.
that goes off, the alarm goes off, you hit the button, you take it out, you add your salt,
That's
boom, you're
it.
done.
Yeah. They
Like,
just need to understand the steps. That's it.
yeah, they just
That
need to
beyond
be.
that, you're taken care of. You're right. And let me ask you this. Why do you think so many businesses, small businesses, stay small business, and never really scale? Like, what do you think gets in the way? That is because the ego, they don't want to they don't trust other people, like you said. Is other challenges of like just not understanding how business works, in your opinion?
Fear.
Fear?
Fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's self-doubt. Because they're like, okay, I want to scale, but to your point, they don't trust their team to do it on their own.
Yeah.
They also don't know how to put in those processes, right? They don't know how to create those standard operating procedures. And they also don't have the time because they're too busy working in their business instead of working on their business.
Right.
So they need, they need to be able to step back and start taking that 20,000, feet view of their business and then making those changes. And then it takes time, right? So it's not like I snap my fingers and my business changed. I have SOPs in place and da da da. And a lot of times they start the process on their own. They get scared because they think it's going to happen quicker than it's supposed to happen. And when it doesn't happen, then they stop and they're afraid and like, oh my God, I'm going to lose everything. So they just go back to the old ways. Like they're their comfort zone of I'm just going to sit here and make $500,000, even though I could make 1 million, but they don't have the time, the knowledge, to put those processes in to make that jump.
Correct. Yeah, it, you're right on that. It's the fear, and then that you're right. It's fear. Everything you just said, I agree with, and we don't take the time to look into that, to take time and just go, what's really going on? We get so busy. I gotta do instead of just let me look into this and tackle head on, or hire Jordan Isaac, and then you don't have to worry about it. You know what I mean? They could do that too as well. I mean, just
Absolutely. Because you know what they do, because it's the they don't put the metrics we talked about in place also, right? So they might feel like they're falling behind, but if they actually track their progress, like, hey, look, you just had a bad week or you just had a bad month, but let's take the quarter before, your plan worked. Like, you're going to have a bad month, but if you track it systematically, then they'll see, hey, you're still on track. Don't give up. And that's what they're unable to do because they don't know what they should be tracking.
Yeah, that tracking part. I'm notorious for not liking the track. And because for me, I immediately go like, oh, it's not fun. But then that's when I'm like, you know what? I have to hire someone like yourself, because then if I pay you money, it forces me to do it. I'm not gonna waste money and not track anything. Because then it's like, all right, cool. I need to have someone be like, no, we're doing this. It makes sense, you know?
Yeah.
There we go.
And they hold you accountable too. It's like, because you'll have weekly, monthly, quarterly trackers. So when we meet at the end of the week or the beginning of the next week, I'm like, hey, Matt, we had these goals for you to do. Did you do it? And you're like, oh, da da da. So that knowing, like, on Wednesday that, oh my God, I have a meeting with Jordan on Monday, I didn't do my homework, which is essentially what it is. Then you're going to step up and you're going to do it instead of sitting down and maybe watching the game that night. Is like, no, I need to work on my business. Because
Right.
if from 9 to 5 you're working in your business, which you might have to do, right? Because you don't have the processes in place yet for other people to be working on it. So you still have to work in your business while you're making, while you're trying to scale. But then it's that mental fortitude, is that accountability by your coach that is in the back of your head saying, you know what, instead of sitting down and, watching the game tonight and drinking a beer, I have to do this because I have to answer to the man in the mirror, but also my coach on Monday, because like you said, I'm paying him and I don't want to be wasting my money. So it makes you accountable to yourself.
Right. I got you. I got you. Yep. Accountability, and that's what you provide, and that's what's needed. So cool. Is there anything else you want to share with everyone about business owners that you feel would benefit, or anything else in general?
Yeah, I think, business owners need to be proud of themselves, first of all, because, you know, you took that step that a lot of most people are afraid to do, right? Most people want to work that 9 to 5 because it's steady, right?
Yeah.
It's a paycheck. And for the most part, they can count on it. It takes a different breed to be an entrepreneur. And they
Yep.
should, and all entrepreneurs need to, pat themselves on the back and celebrate that, hey, you took that step. You've done what 98% of the people can't do. Um, but then, now you have to, look in the mirror and say, what do I want out of this? And once you figure that out, take the necessary steps, don't be afraid to let go. You know, um, there's a book. I don't know if you've read it. The book is called Traction. So I want to give credit where credit's due, and it talks about a business owner who's trying to scale, right? It's not really a business owner trying to scale, but they talk about business owner trying to scale. But it's a guy who is going, right, and he falls off a cliff and he's fallen. The cliff is endless. He's
Mm,
about halfway down, reaches out and grabs a branch, right? So now he's hanging and he starts praying to the higher being and goes, oh my God, please help me, like, get me out of this situation. And then the higher being answers back and says, I'm paraphrasing here, and says, I got you, just let go.
right.
And then the guy goes, he thinks about it, he looks down and he can't see the bottom. He looks up and he's already fallen so far.
Yeah.
And his answer is, Is there anybody else up there with another suggestion? So, so people are afraid to just let go.
Right.
They're like, what you got to do. You ask for help, right? He asked for help. He prayed for help. He got the help, and then he doesn't trust it because he
Yeah.
won't let go. So I tell business owners, congratulate yourself, first of all. Be happy with what you've done so far. So the fact that you're an entrepreneur is noteworthy. But when you realize that you want to go further, you got to get rid of the fear and let go, and then do it.
Wise words. I like that. It's a good story. Cool, cool. Jordan, I thank you for being on, man. It's been a pleasure. I learned a lot and with your experience. I thank you for your service and going to areas that I don't want to ever go in my entire life. I'll live vicariously through you on that.
Uh,
How can people reach you for those that are, hey, I'm gonna hire him, my wife's accountability, and I like to get, my business to scale and grow it without me on the work all the time.
yeah, well, they can visit my website at www.cornucopiaconsulting.com. They can email me at jordan.isaac@cornucopiaconsulting.com,
Right.
or they can get me on LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn. Yeah, same thing. I have a business page, Cornucopia Consulting. Or they can hit me up on, text message. They can text me at 631-614-5453. So I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. They can text me, and they have my website.
Cool. I
Or
appreciate it, man. This has been good. You've heard it, everybody. If you want to get with Jordan, I would suggest you do. I recommend it. Stuff. So with that being said, that's it. I thank you for being on, bro. Appreciate it.
All right. Thank you. I appreciate the platform. I appreciate you giving me a chance. I appreciate what you're doing for veterans. Thank you so much.
Keep it up. Thank you, man.
All right.